Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I'm your host, Mary Katharine Ham. I'm here with my co-host, Vic Mattis of the Washington Free Beacon. There's a lot going on in the news. Trump is in the Middle East making deal after deal after deal, and parts of deals and other parts of deals with many, many countries and many, many leaders. Then we got some great sound bites out of him, as we always do. I want to talk a little bit about some COVID-era heroes in rational thinking. The EPA is after some stupid regulations again, and big stuff happening at SCOTUS. Oh, and don't forget the group chat. We're going to talk about the scandalous group chat. Not Signal. It's a different one. Civilian group chat. But before we get to all that, how's it going, Vic?
Hello, Mayor Catherine. Doing fine. I enjoyed your bit with Hugh Hewitt opening with the wedding reception as a gauge for how old you are.
Yeah.
And he condensed it to two songs.
Yes. He chose well,
yes,
didn't he?
Yes. The Lady in Red. Is it the Lady in Red? Or
Yeah,
the Woman in Red?
Lady in Red.
Who sings that song?
Chris de Burgh, which I was not aware
It was
of.
Paul Young.
Yeah.
Okay. And then going right into DMX.
Yeah.
And which
perfect.
is funny because, the youngs are going to laugh because to them, that you might as well be listening to Rapper's Delight.
Oh, no, DMX is old to them.
It's really old.
DMX is no longer with us. He passed away. I did see him in concert once before he did so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Steve and I saw him in Maryland on a Sunday night. And let me tell you that all of the 35-year-olds to 40-year-olds who were in that audience were so annoyed that DMX was about 2.5, 3 hours late to this thing, because everybody's like, we are not children. We have jobs to go to tomorrow. And so the poor warm-up DJ was really getting it from the crowd. And then he did show up, and he did give a good show. I'll give him that. But it was very late.
Anticipation, Mary Catherine. One like Jim Morrison, she's going to make it into like people can't take it anymore. They're just about to explode. And then he comes on stage. And it reminded me, though, a listener chimed in, William Gaffey, who said that he's now in the awkward phase of requesting songs. He requested It Takes Two, right? Rock bass. And neither the olds or the youngs knew what to do with that one because you're in that middle phase. And I have to tell you, the same thing happened to me and Kate on a weekly standard cruise in the early 2010s.
Okay.
It was early 2010s. You were there.
Okay.
John McCormick, Mike Warren, our friends. You were all requesting the hits of that time, of that era, right? Which at the time it was like Moves Like Jagger.
Oh,
People love that stuff. And then finally the DJ played my request, which was OPP by Naughty by Nature. And I think it was mostly
a good choice.
Yes, and it was mostly me and Kate on the dance floor. And it just cleared out.
I would have been in support of this. Now,
you were probably, you and John were probably trying to fend off your fans.
Well, let me tell you why I might not have been out on the dance floor at that point is that I was pre-announcement pregnant with my first child on that cruise.
On a ship.
And I was fake drinking because I knew everybody would call me out. And so I was over there.
Anybody...
If I'd had a real drink or two in me, I probably would have danced to OPP. I mean, let's be serious.
Thank you. Okay, that makes sense now. Yeah. Did anybody notice at the time on the cruise that you were fake drinking?
No, I tricked everybody. Wow. And there are a couple veteran moms on that trip, Molly Hemingway and Katie Carney, both of whom were annoyed that they didn't flag it. They were like, how?
That's
Wait
right,
a
Katie
second.
Carney was there too. Yeah.
Now, here's the key to the fake drinking, is that it's not totally fake.
No,
you gotta take
absorption.
some real sips.
There's some absorption.
You can't just sit around
I think you were probably
with a completely full drink.
Yeah, you were probably careful, like champagne and things like that. Sparkling.
Just chill.
That's good for baby.
That's how you knew I was going to be a chill mom. Because on the first pregnancy, I'm like, a couple sips isn't going to hurt. Okay.
That's right. How are you?
I'm good. This is going to lead into another discussion of my parenting, which the combo of the two might be bad. Last night, you guys may have tried various methods to stay awake. When you're flagging after lunch, people like their Zens, they like their Celsius.
Yes.
Any form of caffeine.
Right.
They do the Monster energy drinks. But let me tell you, there's nothing that beats your kid falling out of the top bunk in the middle of the night for waking you up.
What woke you up?
Oh, it was so loud, the crash.
Oh.
And I like a vampire rose for
wow.
zoom, Like immediate mom reflex.
So before the cries, it was the thumping noise. Probably a terrible sound.
I was a good 10, 15 seconds before the crying. I was in the room before the crying started.
She was probably disoriented.
Yeah. So I was like, boom, I was up, bolt straight, immediately into the room. I was like, oh, that didn't sound good. And, she was a little disoriented, a little upset. And, it was pretty clear that she was basically fine, which generally they are. Yeah. They're just like they're little noodles. Yeah. And they hit the floor and they're like, blah, blah. That was weird. It's not like us guys.
No, that would have been the end of me.
In traction.
I worry about now, and I'm not even in a bunk.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's the distance then? She did kind of high.
Eventually just put that mattress on the floor back like it was in college. Okay. So I go in there. She's fine. She sits in my lap. She says her foot hurts, and I, have her move it back and forth. She's okay. Now, here's my theory, is that, and Steve belatedly joined me because I think that the mom adrenaline kicks in a little bit quicker.
And I'm sure once he knows that you're not calling for him.
He's also just a heavier sleeper than I am. Like, I'm the alert system. I understand that. For both the husband and the dog. Like, I'm like the dogs over there didn't even move. Like, come on, my dude. He's very protective of us while he's awake. But anyway, so I go in there. I'm comforting her. Her foot's moving fine. Steve checks it out, and her little brother's looking at us the whole time, because then you get worried, like, is the other one going to wake up and scream all night? And her little brother's looking at us the whole time. I kid you not, like, annoyed that we are making this noise, and that everyone is in his room. Like, why are you guys... At
this hour when it's still dark.
Yeah, why are you guys even here?
Right, confused.
And he's, like, side-eyeing us from his pillow, like, is she done? And, like, she almost was, and I said, okay, you good to go? Let's get back up in the bunk. And I put something else to block the area, just so that this wouldn't come to pass again.
How did she?
Well, here's what we think.
Yeah.
This was not a falling out situation. This was there was a plan involved here, because she's not a sleeper who's all over her bed. Generally, her brother is. He should not go up there, but she doesn't sleep halfway off the bed like he does, or fall out of the bed like he does. His is on the ground where yours should be. His is on the ground.
Like, really, just practically Japanese style.
Yes. Yeah. But hers, like, we don't worry about her because she doesn't move around very much. And the fact that she was able to get out of this blocked space that doesn't have a lot of room it's child-proofed, as is everything in their room, which now looks like, I don't know if I've said this before, but it looks like the Grinch just came through the Who's household. Like, there is nothing in there. We just removed an entire dresser. I was like, nope, they can't have it.
No,
They don't get a dresser anymore. They don't get a chest of, there was a chest in there that we had toys in. Yeah. By the way, it's so cute. They call it my treasure. My treasure. That's what they call the chest. Yeah. Anyway, so here's our theory. And because her foot hurt,
yes,
I think that chick jumped off the top bunk. I think she, like...
Do you think she was awake?
Yes, I think she was awake, and she was like, I got this. And then when she hit the floor, she was like, that was a little higher than I anticipated.
What do you think she was going to do?
I don't know. She's just into some acrobatics. I think she was
in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Because otherwise it would have been very hard to accomplish.
Yeah, you'd have to roll over it. I assume.
Yeah, no, there's a block
right
there.
Yeah.
And the foot thing is like, okay, this is what... She came down on her feet. Yeah. That's what happened. We have a carpet, thank goodness. It's nice and shaggy, so that was a little bit...
That helps. Good idea.
Am I going to have to get the crib mattresses back out and put them under this space?
No,
I don't know.
As I've said before, you sound like you're getting closer and closer to the padded wall.
No, it eventually will be that.
Okay.
It will be that, because every single thing in that room has been sacrificed. Yeah. Except there's one big dresser left, which is very heavy, anchored to a stud.
Okay. Good.
Drawers don't open. Like,
drawers don't open.
It's hard for me to open the drawers, they're pretty good. But all the kid locks on all the things have just been torn off the drywall. We put them over the outlets, and they just tear them off the wall. Yeah. Steve's doing forensics about, like, what's been thrown at what wall at what point. The other day, did I talk about the lamp?
No,
So they had a first lamp, which that was my bad. Their little cute nursery lamp was originally tempered glass, and that was a mistake. Okay, so that one went down.
Yeah.
No injuries. We got it. Cleared it out. That was from when they were babies.
Yeah.
I updated it to the least destructible
source of light
possible lamp.
Yeah.
And it was aluminum, and that too did not last. In fact, I think I have a clip of Steve talking about it. Here we go. Run it on Getting Hammered. So what is this, Steve?
This appears to be a metal or aluminum lamp. I guess aluminum is metal, and the children seem to have bent it.
It used to be a circle.
Now it's shaped like something else.
Yeah.
So
I thought I gave them the most indestructible lamp I could. I mean, obviously glass was a bad idea the first time, but this one...
Thought this one was going to make it.
That's such luck. Nor did the entire dresser make it.
2-month service record.
Mm-hmm. Dresser's going out after having been looted. Clothes all over the floor. They're amazing.
You know what?
They made a circle aluminum lamp into an oval. They just crunched it. I don't know what they did. Do they have a vice in there that I'm unaware of?
They're like the orangutans in the zoo. I knew a guy who worked at the zoo, running jury duty together, and he told me that the orangutans would spend their days, those bolts into the wall, washers, right? They put it in there, and they would eventually take out these giant bolts, unscrew it. Even though it's tightly screwed in, they would just screw it out, and then they just bend the bolts.
Yeah.
And that's what
This is what I have. Yes, this is what I have. And Steve's like, bless his heart, being very rational about it. He's like, if we just remove everything, then they won't be able to.
What could they do?
I'm like, sweetie, let us not forget to congratulate them for their ingenuity. Yeah. Anything in this room will be used. Unless we are down to literally 2 mattresses, stuff's gonna go. Yeah. It's just gonna be a problem.
They probably know how to make a shiv.
I would not doubt it. Now, a lot of people will say, if you just went and got them out of the room, this wouldn't be a problem. That's a fair point. Do I want to get them out of the room at 5 in the morning when they wake up? No, I want them to play in there and have their prison riot. And we sacrifice what we sacrifice.
A self-contained prison riot.
Yeah. That's our theory. And
one day,
once you put them in there at certain times of day and they have a schedule, they understand that that's where they're supposed to be. And even if they don't go to sleep, they goof off in there. Yeah. And the goofing off is where we get the damage.
Time to go back to your cell.
Yes. So, your outside time has been revoked. That's
right, at the prison yard.
And you're back in. Anyway, that's what happened. And we will discuss further fortification for the area over which...
Have you been awake since then, or you went back to sleep?
No, I went back to sleep, but I had to watch some junky TV before I could. I was like, my adrenaline is up here. Yeah. I can't do it.
Okay.
Can't do it. Anyway, everyone's fine. We're good. All righty. The tales of the nursery continue.
One day you're going to miss this, maybe.
You know what? I'm glad we're memorializing it.
Yes.
By the way, the little one used to sleep on the treasure chest. Oh. He loves to do that. Yeah. It's just wood. Yeah. And he wants to sleep on it, but children can sleep on anything.
They can.
And I would just put a blanket below the treasure chest for when he inevitably falls off the treasure chest. Mama, sleep treasure, mama.
He's outgrown that.
Now he doesn't have a treasure. That's what you did.
Yeah.
That's what we've caused. Okay. We should talk about the news.
Let's do it.
There we go. Trump's in the Middle East. What's going on?
Whirlwind tour.
He's in Saudi Arabia. He's in Qatar, I guess is how we say it now. Can I say that it annoys me when we change the pronunciations?
It was Qatar.
It was Qatar forever. And I don't care about Qatar and how they pronounce it because Qatar's not a friend to us.
Yeah.
And if they want it to be Qatar, I'd actually prefer for it to be Qatar and be very Merkin about it.
Yeah.
And I don't like when the whole journalistic consensus goes from one thing to another, and then they just pretend.
They pretend that they've always said.
They pretend as if you're a rube if you haven't moved yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. Just like Kamala and Kamala, y'all were saying the wrong one forever.
Yeah.
And then you all just decided with your little hive mind that it was something different. And I find it annoying.
Okay.
I find it annoying. I don't know why. Kyiv is another one.
Well, the spelling has changed.
We were like Kiev for our whole
lives.
lives.
The Russian spelling versus the Ukrainian spelling. And also, remember when Ukraine was the Ukraine and then we all got, it's not the.
You know what?
Ukraine.
If I were Ukraine, I wouldn't have given up the University of Georgia,
Yes.
the Ohio State University.
Yeah.
The is important.
Yeah, that and the nukes, the two things they should have given up. But
It's really good.
You like that?
That is a foreign policy joke, folks.
That's right. I get this feeling, Mary Catherine, that Trump, this is a big trip to the Middle East. And I don't remember him doing this kind of a whirlwind trip in his first term, right? I mean, he'd been there before, obviously, to Israel. Israel's not a part of that's like an exclusive, separate kind of a trip, which makes the Israelis nervous. But I get the feeling that the leaders of these countries have figured out how to get to Trump to get him to do the things that they want him to do by outdoing the other country in terms of opulence.
Yeah.
And so
They're
Arabia,
better at it than any Democrat in this country.
Really good. I mean, they, obviously they roll out the red carpet, but they got, Saudi Arabia had the Arabian horses and this, big procession. And you know how much he loves the marches. And then obviously where he's staying must be an amazing place.
Yeah.
And
shows of opulence are indeed
Yes.
right up his alley. Yeah.
That's right. And now he's at Qatar, and he's talking about wanting to make deals, but and he came out with a big one, right? $142 billion in weapons aid to the Saudis, and they have the best, right? They have F-15s, as do the Israelis. I mean, it's kind of part of that deal,
right?
Because if we're going to give one country the best, the other one can't. And the idea is if you triangulate, then you have them both against the Iranians, who don't have many great jets in that respect. So that's one thought. In return,
I was going to ask, what is the deal here?
Saudis are investing hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in United States tech.
Okay.
And the thinking is they're going to invest that money in two places. These Middle Eastern countries. Either it's us or it's China. So we might as well beat the Chinese to it and have them be partners with us, right? Rather than partnering with China. Because China's playing that great game. Same thing with India and Pakistan, and they're on the Pakistani side. And so there's a lot at stake here. So I get that. And that's good if this all works out. But a lot of it, I think, is just based on Trump's whims. And I think the Israelis know that, which makes them, again, like I said, nervous.
Concerned, right?
They worked out the hostage rescue, or the release, I should say, of Eden Alexander. And the Israelis apparently didn't know about that. And Netanyahu has said at some point, we've been dependent on the United States for aid since 1948. It may be time, which is what other people have been saying, it may be time to wean ourselves off this so that we can, on our own 2 feet. But buying weapons, we should always sell them weapons. But if they're getting the extra aid, that all comes back to Camp David Accords. It was like this equal deal with Egypt and Israel at the time. So time passes. So maybe they're worried about this, but other people in Israel are not. Our Andrew Tobin has written about this in the Free Beacon. So there's some worry, but others say, well, hold on now. At the end of the day, it's not going to be as bad as you think. Yeah, and we will see.
People were torn, or people who I trust and follow had different takes on the speech.
Okay, yes,
in Saudi Arabia,
the big speech.
I was medium on it. I didn't have any big objections. What I worry about more than anything is that Witkoff seems not just out of the box on his thinking about the Middle East, but maybe a little bit just inexperienced in thinking through all these threads, and that his modus operandi is to make deals.
Yes, loves the
and
deal.
that can lead to making deals that aren't necessarily the greatest deals.
Right, deals
that
for the
doesn't
sake
mean
of deals.
That doesn't mean I'll object to all of them, but that's the part that concerns me more than Trump's speech, which sounded basically fine.
The speech, as I call it, the speech that went after not only terrorists and other bad people, shall we say, in the Middle East, but also, quote, the liberal nonprofits and the neocons.
Yeah.
So, and I get it. The days of exporting democracy abroad are over.
Yes.
I understand that after everything that's happened. But can deals lead to democracy?
Yeah.
Well, and does he even care? Because I think he envies these leaders because
I think there is some of that. I mean, he has a mobile McDonald's that goes around behind him in Saudi Arabia.
Oh man, could you imagine? That's dangerous though for me. Like for me.
Yeah, it's not dangerous for Trump because Trump's like
he's indestructible.
Nothing ever changes.
Dietarily speaking, he is indestructible. Whereas I would be like, man, the surf and turf, meaning like a fish fillet.
Yeah.
And a quarter pounder with cheese. Double. Oh, forget it.
Forget it.
Yeah, that's their plan. That's how they would kill me.
So there was an interesting write-up in Axios about Trump's Middle East posture.
Okay.
This is which I think captures something about Trump and captures what he did in the first term, which is one reason I'm willing to give Trump's philosophies quite a bit of leeway in the Middle East is that you got really good results in the first term.
Yeah.
The Abraham Accords, moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
Which everybody said World War III.
Everyone said would be World War III.
And we had to suffer through that in the media.
Yes.
You know?
And then, by the way, this is one of my favorite CNN appearances, is that I was asked about it on CNN. It was in the era where they played that famous ad about an apple's an apple. And the banana's the banana.
Right.
You know?
Yes, I remember that.
The apple can't be a banana. We're just about facts. Like that.
Yes. Oh, my God.
In fact, we can find the audio of that real quick.
That was insufferable.
So it is not an extreme move to acknowledge that the capital of Israel is the capital of Israel. We get into a lot of diplomatic doublespeak and sort of maintaining the peace process above all else. But I think there's merit in calling an apple an apple. It is the capital. There's no dispute that West Jerusalem and those facilities would remain the capital in a two-state solution.
So
yeah,
there was a little like look from people like don't go too hard in that paint, girl.
Yeah, it must be interesting to be these people on a panel where you basically want to sit around and just, no pushback.
Yeah, that was my tangent about myself. Excuse me, but Axios reports President Trump's recent series
do it on the show,
of audacious foreign policy moves have astounded even some of his harshest critics. The big picture, just in the Middle East and just in the past week, Trump has met with a leader the U.S. usually officially considers a terrorist, announced he'll lift all sanctions on Syria, and cut a truce with the Houthis, plus a hostage deal with Hamas, both of which excluded Israel. What they're saying, Biden administration veterans who spoke with Axios raised questions about Trump's motivations, but grudgingly saluted his boldness. Gosh, I wish I could work for an administration that could move that quickly, one admitted. By the way, can any of you people ever put your name on the record?
Yeah.
Any of you?
No.
He does all this, and it's kind of silence. It's met with a shrug, says Ned Price. Oh, good job, Ned.
Yeah.
Senior State Department official under President Biden. Mm-hmm. He has the ability to do things politically that previous presidents did not, because he has complete unquestioned authority over the Republican caucus. I don't actually think it's that. I think he is willing to do different things because he doesn't have a particular philosophy, and he looks at the ground and he's like, what will work? And sometimes what he decides will work might work to make a deal, but again, might not be a morally correct or good deal.
Well, as you know, he's swayable.
Yes.
And the only caution I would add is when Biden negotiators are encouraged, that might be a bad sign. I know Robert Malley, who was let go from the administration and the FBI was investigating him.
Right.
He was in the Biden administration, and whether or not classified materials had been breached or compromised by him. They were looking into this, and he was like, "Oh wow, this is great news that he's dealing with the Iranians." And the United States is like in direct talks. Usually, there's a long lead up to actually have the face-to-face, but that is happening.
By the way, did you see that David Ignatius, which like this might make me or others nervous?
Yes.
That David Ignatius of the Washington Post writes a piece entitled "Trump the Improviser Has a Head-Spinning Diplomatic Week." In Saudi Arabia this week, at least, the president is pivoting toward the art of the realistic, and he basically praises him for...
Like I said.
Yeah.
Now, you have to remember, though, and people are going to give Trump a hard time for this, it was Joe Biden, really, who was in a worse-off position, because after the murder of Jamal Khashoggi and people were saying that Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, was directly responsible.
Right.
and had a hand in his brutal murder, Biden said, I'm done with it. I'm done dealing. I'm not going to deal with him anymore. And then he had to come groveling to the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And it was that awkward, remember, they weren't sure if he was going to handshake, and Biden settled for the fist bump. And I don't know if it was like, hey, it's COVID, I'm going to fist bump him. Or was it, I don't want people to think I'm that close with him by shaking hands. The fist bump gives a little bit of,
Or was it senility? We
Or
can
was
never
it
know.
senility? That's one thing.
What's the famous book on such protocols, cultural protocols? Is it kiss, bow,
Oh, right. Yeah.
shake hands?
Yeah.
He just added the fist bump.
That
in.
fist bump is
Yeah.
part of it. Absolutely. The other thing is Syria, and it's a new government now. Assad has been deposed. He's fled, and Trump says that they're going to lift sanctions, and he met with the young leader of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara. He is still on the terror watch list. The United States' terror watch
Right.
list. And Trump met with him. And if I can just give you two quotes.
Yes, please.
Quote, he's a great young, attractive guy. Attractive. And also, quote, with a very strong past. Yes, that's one way to put it. A strong
past.
jihadist past.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Biden always admiring people's biceps. So my advice if you're a world leader, you want to get in good graces with Trump, get in shape.
Yeah.
Get in shape.
True.
Look good.
Trump also, and like
looks a good
some of this is worrisome, right? At
Yes,
times,
of course.
and particularly as it regards Israel. But on the other hand, Israel's going hard after Yahya Sinwar's brother is a brother this week, and Trump ain't saying nothing about it.
No, that's the good thing. That's always been the good thing, that there was never any fear that there were any sort of malign forces within the Trump administration that would, prevail and say, we're going to hold back on munitions.
Yeah.
He's got free reign. This does make, of course, the Qataris nervous, since the Hamas leadership is in Qatar.
Right.
So it's like one or the other.
I also love that like anything Trump does just makes liberals abandon the thing they used to like
Oh my God.
realism,
Yeah.
tariffs, protectionism, whatever it is. They're like, no, not into that.
They hate price controls, and they're free traders now.
They're such
he's
free
totally owned them.
traders.
In the end, Trump is going to be like, I master trolled you.
By the way,
know,
did you see
that's
that?
the term.
Have you seen the turn that Keir Starmer's Twitter account has taken?
No.
Keir Starmer's like trying to. I guess he's trying to.
British Prime Minister.
Yeah, unless I'm being trolled by a different one, but I don't think I am. Yeah, it's the real one.
Okay.
It's the real Keir Starmer. Apparently, he's becoming a right-wing podcaster too. Like the market is flooded.
He's Newsoming it.
Working together with Albania, we will deter, detect, and return illegal migrants. By tackling illegal migration overseas and smashing the gangs at the source, we're making our streets safer and easing pressure on public services. That's my plan for change in action. It goes on and on. He's saying it over and over and over again. I've already returned over 24,000 people with no right to be here, and I won't stop there.
Oh my goodness.
Trumpism always wins.
Yeah.
This is his,
Really?
This is his magic.
Yeah. He's gotten them all turned around.
He's like the biggest leftist there is, and
Right.
he's just nonstop tweeting through it.
Yeah, he's turning
deporting people.
He's turning progressives into neocons.
And this is actually clever. He's like, the Tories lost control of our borders. My Labour government is going further than ever to tackle illegal immigration at its source.
Yeah. Suddenly, Rishi
Wowza.
Sunak was the problem, and also
That was an era, man. Remember the Liz Truss Sunak?
that was really quick. That was
Wow.
blink of an eye.
Whew.
I'm impressed you remembered Liz Truss.
I did.
I'm glad he's going hard. I mean, look, I'll take the win.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll go even harder, like to the point of how he treats people who hit like.
Yeah,
on
there's also
social
like
media.
Tens of
They
thousands.
go to jail forever.
Tens of thousands of people who are jailed for saying objectionable things online.
They get
Hey,
sent, they get
one
sent
thing at a
away.
time. One thing at a time.
Yes, they get sent to Azkaban.
All right, that was a tangent, not about me this time.
And then the
but-
other quick thing was Iran, where he is now teasing a deal is in the works. Trump is, and you know what he said? He said the deal is, Iran is supposedly going to open up its facilities to the International Atomic Energy Agency to check us out.
I feel like
and
I've
they
heard
are
this.
not
The IAEA.
the IAEA, and they are not going to pursue nuclear weapons. I don't know if that means they're not going to pursue nuclear energy. They're sitting on a lot of oil. They don't necessarily need to rely on nuclear energy. In return for the United States lifting all sanctions, then they'll stop. That is supposedly what is in the works. We don't know if it's not a done deal. But in classic Trump form, because everyone's talking about nuclear enrichment, much like he refers to rare earths, he said, quote, no nuclear dust.
Okay, no nuclear
dust.
You know what? I don't have a sophisticated take on this, but it doesn't sound good.
Well, again, hey, every country has a right for nuclear energy. We love nuclear energy. The French use it, so why not the Iranians? Maybe if they can process it abroad and they bring it back, and then we can have a monitoring system, then okay. He also said that he wants Iran to succeed.
Remind me how much we trust the IAEA.
Yeah.
And its interactions with authoritarian nations. Not so much.
And he also said he wants Iran to succeed. And I'm like, under the current regime that says death to America?
Do we?
I don't know about that.
Do we?
Yeah.
We want the Iranian people to succeed.
And then, thank you, Mary Katharine. And then meanwhile, there's the Ukraine situation, which is to meet in Istanbul or not.
Oh.
And initially, Trump.
Is it Istanbul or Constantinople?
Byzantium. They were going to meet in Byzantium.
You know what we should do? We should just declare that it's Constantinople. Yeah, we're going back to Constantinople. No, this is just a slightly different pronunciation. Yeah. It's actually more accurate.
It is.
And then make all the journalists change.
Yeah. No, I mean, we want to acknowledge that this ground was it belonged.
This is our land acknowledgement.
The Eastern Empire.
Where else do you get foreign policy talk like this, guys?
This is the. So in the Ukraine deal, possible. Trump put a lot of pressure on Zelensky to accept the deal, come to Istanbul and meet with Putin.
Right.
And in all caps, his truth was, make the deal. So Zelensky says, you know what? I'm going to call not Trump's bluff, but Putin's bluff about this meeting and the ceasefire, which, of course, Putin's not abiding by a ceasefire. And Zelensky's now in Turkey. He's not in Istanbul. He's in Ankara, and he's meeting with Erdogan. But Rubio is there, too, now in Turkey. So now it's back to being in Putin's court. Putin sent some junior aid.
Interesting.
And Zelensky's not going to deal. And Trump wants the optics too.
Yeah.
Of being able to bring these two together. Shake hands with the guy who wants to kill you.
Yeah. Poor Rubio. Like 7 time zones and 4 jobs later.
That is.
He's.
I know.
He's got a lot going on.
So that's what's happening.
Okay. Well, geez, I think we got that settled.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's.
Truly, the pace is remarkable.
It is.
It is remarkable. I can imagine if you worked for a Biden administration, you're like, gah.
Oh, those hours. Those are banking hours in the Biden administration. It's like 10 to 4.
All right. We wanted to talk a little bit about the Truth Social plan to do price controls.
Oh, yeah.
But really, we didn't want to talk about that. The only reason we want to talk about it is because we want to play the fat shot clip.
What? You want to go right to the fat shot
Just
clip
go
right now?
straight to it.
This is really
just a masterpiece in Trump rhetoric. Yeah. Are you ready? Rhetoricians will be studying him for
SNL
generations.
Writers could not come up with this.
Here we go. He's talking about his plan to do what I think are a bad idea, some price controls on pharmaceuticals because other people in other countries pay less money for them. Yeah. Other people in other countries pay less money for them, partly because they're all socialists and we're the only non-socialists when it comes to healthcare. And because we're the only non-socialists when it comes to healthcare, we end up doing all the R&D and we end up creating all the new things. And if we stop doing that, if everyone's a socialist, what happens? There's no goods to trade. Anyway, okay.
That was impressive.
Here's Trump talking about it.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
Okay, you cannot not laugh at that. It's not working. He throws in the it's not working.
Yeah.
Also, whoever brings the next generic GLP-1 to market or whatever the new thing, just call it the fat shot drug. It's fantastic.
Yes. You've had your chance with Ozempic and Mounjaro. Welcome to the fat shot drug.
The fat shot drug.
Okay, I don't even know where to begin with this, but I will say, when he goes off on these tangents, he really does remind me of Frankie Pentangeli from Godfather 2. You're up here in the Sierra Madres, drinking your champagne cocktails, canopies, and then you're like, where is he? And it got to the point where he's like, y'all know him, I'll just give you his initials. Let's just I'll give you his first name, and it's like, just tell us who it is now. Just tell us who it is.
I know, we need to know. Yeah. Also, I want an AI generator that creates this kind of description of me in Trump's voice.
Right. It's really quite something.
Like mine would be much meaner, of course, but because he doesn't care for me.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know which characteristics he would pick out. Yeah. She never wears sleeves. Very rarely. It's inappropriate.
Not always ladylike. Not always ladylike. Okay, yes.
It would be fun. The executive order, I think, is somewhat less sweeping than the Truth Social post was about the executive order.
But it's the vagueness of it that I think has some of Big Pharma a little concerned.
So U.S. News reports President Donald Trump on Monday signed an executive order seeking to lower drug prices in the U.S. by having the government pay the same costs for medications as is paid in other countries. Again, the reason that they can do that is because they're single payer, so they have this huge source that will buy the drugs and is the only thing that will buy the drugs. Right. And so they can negotiate and say, bring down your costs because we have this huge buyer and we're the only buyer. You can't do that in the U.S. because there's a lot of different buyers. We also have advertising on TV, which makes it different for accessibility for individual people. Anyway, Trump at the press briefing said the plan involved establishing a most favored nation pricing policy to reduce the cost the government pays for medications to those comparable to what other countries pay. This, of course, would only be our Medicare and Medicaid areas where he would apply this. That's what I was wondering from the Truth Social post. Is like, you don't have the authority to do this all over. But within government plans.
That's right. It's an executive order.
Right.
He doesn't have any sort of congressional backing for this. And it's interesting they use the term price targets, not price controls, because that scares people, but price targets. And if you don't meet those targets, prepare to pay holy hell from the HHS. Yes. But the HHS doesn't have, as you mentioned, the authority to do these things or to impose these new sets of rules or penalties against the pharmaceutical companies. Goes back to, in Nixon's case, that's the last time we had a Republican really sort of try to embrace, I think, price controls. Nixon's was broader, right? Was what he called phase 2, and that was or phase 3, whatever it was, and that was salaries, rents, wages.
Yes. Tell me, were these price controls successful?
No, they were not.
Were they good for the people? Because generally the price controls are not.
Phase 2 was not.
I think Trump is really good at identifying a pain point
phase 3.
He's very good at identifying a pain point and a message that's going to be popular with like basically everyone, which is these prices should come down.
Right.
But
people relate to that.
Much like, lefties, frankly, if you don't think through the policy, you can promise something that's not going to happen, or you promise something that could happen but will have really bad unintended consequences, which in this case, although I acknowledge that he is correct about the unfairness of the fact that everybody is, what it is that everybody's free riding off our research and development. We do half the world's research and development, at least, and as some estimates are 55%, 60% of the research and development. You have to put a lot of money in to create these new drugs. You have to put more money in to go through the FDA's process to get them approved. And in order to take those risks, particularly on drugs that might be only for a small segment of people who are affected by a rare disease, right? You need sort of like it to be worth it.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to operate a company that sustains itself. And you need, much like a movie theater would, or a movie production company would, tentpole products that pay for a lot of the other smaller things, right? If you take away the ability for those companies to make those profits. And look, I don't trust pharma implicitly. I got annoyed during COVID like everyone else did at the promises and the heavy hand and all the subsidizing we were doing. But there are real life-saving things that they do.
Right.
And I do think if you go too far down this road, you will end up, by the way, he was blocked by a court order trying to do this in the first term. If you go too far down this road, you will end up with less innovation and less available, just fewer drugs total, because you're not incentivized to make the supply work.
He doesn't seem convinced that all that money is going to R&D. That's
right.
That's
well, and probably in some cases he's correct.
Well, I tell you, they do make a lot of money, and I knew a guy who worked for a pharmacy. I'm not going to name the company. It's a big company, makes billions of dollars.
Very top company.
This is up in North Jersey, and the guy had
You'd know it if you heard it.
Yes, no, you would. He had a helipad in the backyard. Like, oh my gosh, we got a drug emergency. Get to the chopper. I mean, really?
Are you Bernie Sandersing the helipads now?
The helipad is
although,
for
you know
the
what,
pharmaceutical executive. It's
even Bernie Sanders doesn't Bernie Sanders the helipads. As we know, he's happy to fly on the private aircraft.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, Dr. Oz. That's a thing that we haven't addressed in a while. But Dr. Oz is the head of CMS.
Lost to Fetterman. Yeah.
He's the head of CMS. Said that over the next month, Trump administration officials will be approaching pharmaceutical companies to talk specifically about what we want the most favored nation price to be based on the best data we have. We're looking forward to a thoughtful interaction with these corporate leaders. This is another thing that kind of annoys me about Trump in general, is like, this is all just very swampy. It's going to be the first guy who shows up hat in hand, like, ooh, what can I do for you guys? What can I do for you guys? It's the collusion of big business and big government that does not generally tend to help people.
You know what would help, though, and make it less swampy, if they were able to have these sort of transactions using crypto?
The nice thing about Trump, though, is if the pharma guys come to town, he's probably just going to have that conversation in the Oval Office in front of everyone. They're going to be like, negotiating over Celebrex's price or something.
Right in front of everybody.
Right in front of everyone.
No, it'll be like the cabinet meeting in the movie Dave. Do you really want to shut down that homeless shelter?
There'll be a board with all the major drugs listed.
And the costs. But it is scary, and I understand this.
Yeah.
I'm on a drug, Dupixent, right? It's for eczema, but it's a miracle drug. It's a lifesaver, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, just I'd be in the hospital sometimes. You can get all infections and things. It's terrible, and I'm doing great.
Yeah.
And the copay is anywhere between $0 and $150 a month, and if you have like a copay card, it's $0. If you don't have insurance, like God forbid something happened and I didn't have insurance, and because of this drug, it would cost, they say, $36,000 a year for me.
Here's the thing, by the way, as somebody who did not have coverage for a while, or had fake coverage during the Obamacare era, when I told them they were going to ruin my health care, and then they did. And I was buying sort of like piecemeal insurance products, and I didn't have that kind of coverage.
It was great documentation, by the way, by you.
You can go. Often the price just means nothing, because we have a third party payer system. So nobody knows what the price is or what the price should be of anything. Yeah. And so you go in and you're like, oh, I don't have insurance. And they'll be like, it's like spinning the wheel at The Price is Right. They'll be like, why don't you give us $73?
Wow.
And like you'd look it up elsewhere and it would be like, you should pay $1,000 for this. Right. But if you tell them, like, I'm just a sad pauper with no card,
they find some ways.
You got to call yourself cash pay. I'm cash pay.
Somewhere in between 1,000 and 73.
And then you got to be like, I'm a widow with these 2 small children. I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. But like, if you're cash pay, they will give you a better price off.
Yes. I'll also,
because the prices aren't real.
You know what I'll also do? I'll ask the doctor for free samples.
Smart.
Give me the free
Smart.
samples.
We love that. All right. I wanted to mention that the Free Press did a great piece on some of my friends. I'm proud to call friends who were Team Reality, is what they called themselves during the pandemic, and especially during the early pandemic when everyone was losing their minds. And I started following them early on because I felt that they were people I could trust on the numbers, what those numbers meant. I am not as good at math as they are, and so I outsourced it. But this tells the story a little bit of one of my friends, Kelley, who lives in Georgia. And she's like the mom of one kid. And as the pandemic started, she was like, well, let me run down some of these numbers. So 5 years ago, Kelley Krohnert, a wife and mother who lives just outside Atlanta and runs a small photography business, was, like most of us, filled with dread and confusion. It was the early days of COVID. At the time, the Georgia Health Department wasn't keeping a public record of the number of cases. So Kelley, who's in her 40s, began plugging numbers she saw in the news into her own spreadsheet and started a website, covidgeorgia.com, to share her data, gaining a wide following on Twitter, now under the handle Kelley K Georgia, and it's KELLEYKGA, which you should follow her because she is very smart. It didn't take long for Krohnert to start noticing statistical errors, which grew only more common as time went on. The CDC's own unofficial COVID data tracker of cases from across the nation often reported higher pediatric death counts than the official numbers on the National Center for Health Statistics website, and the media often reported those higher numbers. As time went on, the CDC reported that 4% of COVID deaths were children, when their own data showed it was 0.04%. In 2022, she discovered that a frightening study cited by the CDC during its push for a pediatric COVID vaccine vastly inflated the disease's risk to children. For example, it compared 26 months of COVID-associated deaths to 1 year of deaths from other causes. And Kelley says, these were mistakes and errors a middle school student wouldn't make, Krohnert told me. She didn't start out with any inherent suspicion of the government. She expected officials to be a trusted source of information and to deliver level-headed guidance. But the more she burrowed into the COVID numbers, the more problems she saw. And remarkably, all the errors she identified made things seem worse and more dangerous than they were. She and a couple of other people, Political Math, who's Matt Shapiro, who's been a longtime friend of mine, and has always done data analysis and data representations in a very accessible way. He joined the Atlantic's COVID tracker in the early days and then noticed that when they would come up with data that bucked the conventional government liberal wisdom, that everyone was going to die and you had to put a mask on at all times, he would present this data to his fellow data trackers and they would be like, let's not talk about that. So he kind of struck out on his own as well. Justin Hart was one of them. And they're just finally getting recognition and they deserve it.
That was my question. At the time, they're bringing all this to light and then the light is being, hidden.
Yes.
Why?
I mean, look, this is the pediatric deaths thing, right? This is everything with the liberal hive mind and the media, is that they're willfully blind, willfully ignorant. I think on
they never
COVID,
want to admit they will never want to admit they were wrong, right?
Right. Well, and on COVID stats, I think it was easier because a lot of journalists aren't good at math, right? So they're taking whatever they're given.
Yeah.
It turns out a lot of people at the CDC aren't good at math, right? And she's flagging these things, and a lot of people that I watched during the pandemic have gotten these high-ranking jobs inside the administration, and I wish they would hire Kelley and Matt to to audit all these stats collecting, data collecting services, because that is an actual useful thing the government can do, but not if they're using it to do nonsense. So I think being a good lib meant being really, 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 really worried about COVID. And so when you're told that all these kids are dying of COVID, you don't look harder because what you want to believe is sadly, oh no, we have to be so careful because all these kids are dying of COVID. I followed this with her at the time because I was like, this COVID pediatric death thing seems wrong. And I think they're doing it in service of continuing to keep schools closed, continuing to mask kids. And the whole thing is just like a liberal groupthink, inability to look past your own people. And the people who did otherwise were slammed for it. They were made fun of for it. They were ostracized sometimes. They lost friends over it. And I super appreciated the work, and I'm glad that the Free Press is covering it.
That, and the other encouraging thing, of course, is that all of these agencies now have these great doctors. Jay Bhattacharya, right? Vinny Prasad.
He was part of this original crew, right? So this original crew coalesces online. It's a bunch of hobbyist virologists and hobbyist statisticians that come together, and he was among them. And they become boosters of the Great Barrington Declaration. And
That's
again, many of them.
And anyone who signed that was going to be shunned.
Suffering slings and arrows as a result. They were right. They were right and they continue to be right. And Kelley, my buddy, who I speak very highly of with good reason.
Yeah.
She's really responsible, and she calls out both right and left-leaning mistakes.
Sure.
When people get stuff wrong. And so
right.
I like her very much.
That's encouraging, and you're going to get the right numbers now, especially with Bhattacharya and Prasad. I don't mean it because they're Indian. I mean because they're very smart doctors.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love an ethnic joke to top it off. This is Matt, real quickly, speaking about his experience with the folks at the Atlantic, who he said, were very responsible to start this thing, the COVID tracking project, the most complete data repository of COVID's impact in the U.S. Shapiro describes himself as right of center, insatiably curious, artificial intelligence engineer with a background in data management, and he was eager to put his data mining skills to work for the common good. His work became a full-time COVID hobby. And he joined other volunteers, good people trying to do an important thing, to input data, analyze trends, and make data-based recommendations to help shape public health. But when the data told a story that contradicted the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's recommendations, for example, that COVID spread as quickly in places with mask mandates as it did in places without them, his mostly left-leaning colleagues on the team went silent. All my data friends that I had made doing all this work together, were just like, not touching that.
Yeah.
So that's how you fall down and get really bad policy for several years.
And still paying the price for it.
Anyway.
And they don't know on the left whose fault that was because it wasn't theirs.
Oh, yes, can't be. As they say about the president's health, we're looking forward.
Yeah.
We're not looking
Why
back.
are you dwelling on the past, Mary Katharine?
We're looking forward. Whenever I screw up really badly, I'm like, hey, let's look forward, guys. My toddlers are like, Mom, I see the lamp smushed into an oval that you are holding, and I think it's important that we look forward.
Let's look forward. Yeah.
That we look.
Yes. That's what. That's good.
We're not backwards looking people. Okay. But congrats to all of them.
Yes.
And actually, I'll tweet all of their handles and have tweeted all their handles.
Yeah.
They are definitely worth a follow.
Yeah.
Okay. We wanted to talk about the EPA real quick.
Oh, right.
This is fantastic
This is news to
stuff.
me when you came into my office. Yes.
EPA chief, auto start stop technology is done.
Wow.
The dreaded auto start stop feature used in so many modern cars, trucks, and SUVs could finally be done away with, thanks to EPA head Lee Zeldin, the administrator of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. He took to X and declared this week that the technology everyone hates is no longer going to be required by federal regulation. I don't know who wrote this piece, but I love that it's just like everyone hates it.
Yeah.
I think that might be the Zeldin characterization. I think that's the Zeldin characterization, but it's correct.
Kate hates it. It drives her nuts.
Oh, it's crazy. People are excited about this announcement. If you don't understand why, either you're a huge engineering nerd who doesn't process real-life experiences normally, or you don't drive a vehicle equipped with this annoying and downright dangerous tech. While proponents of auto start stop claim cars equipped with it have robust starts and ignition systems, the people who fix vehicles have more to say about that.
Is that right?
Our personal experience at our house suggests that the wear and tear on the ignition is not worth whatever environmental BS you're gaining.
So on my Subaru, for example, it'll just come to, the engine just shuts down, and you'll have a little indicator showing how many gallons of gas you have saved every time it has shut down. Fine.
Sure.
That's
just like the Obama administration saved American jobs. Yeah.
That said, it
saved or created.
It can oftentimes shut down in the least convenient moments.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm at an intersection, I'm about to turn, but there's cars coming, so the wheel is turned. When the ignition shuts down, the wheel locks, and the steering wheel then has to right itself and go straight again. So then and if my hand's on it, then it gets all twisted and abruptly, because it's a forceful turn to set it back forward, and then I got to restart it and then turn the wheel.
Nobody
again.
wants that. Nobody wants a car that shuts off randomly.
No, and I did. You know what? And I did wonder, because it's so repeated, especially in traffic in this town, what the wear and tear is like.
Yeah, there's wear and tear. And I have had a situation, actually just yesterday, where I turned off the car and I did whatever the signal is to the car to restart it by accident as I was getting ready to pump gas. Now, I'm not of the mind that I'm going to blow up imminently should my engine be running while I'm on my cell phone while I'm putting gas in the car. But that's
quite the image, by the way. I could see it blowing up.
Great.
Yeah.
And if I did blow up, what a sad story that it would have happened right before Lee
This
Zeldin solved
happened.
this problem.
Yeah. Now, some listeners are going to say you can deactivate that yourself. There's a
We
button.
can't in our car. We checked.
Oh, I believe I can in my Subaru.
And so anyway, I'm filling the car up with gas, and I was like, what is that noise? You hear the ambient noise, and I'm like, that is the engine to this dumb car that turned on again after I left the driver's seat.
Wow.
Yeah. So no to that. In general, no to that.
I was going to say also that's good news for me because it will help me in my drag racing.
Yeah.
Because usually we're at the light and it shows.
Yeah, that's
and then,
that is.
You know.
You're never gonna win like that.
No.
And as an Asian man, you really want to be on top of that kind of
things
thing.
against me. 2 strikes, Mary Catherine. Except for,
See,
I will correct you.
I was making a different ethnic joke.
Oh.
We just did 2 at the same time.
did.
You did bad driver
I did
Asian.
bad driver. What were
I
you
did
thinking?
drag racing Honda Civic souped up
Oh,
joke.
wow. Yeah, no, I went to
Yeah.
the other one, the one that you're not supposed to talk about. But I will say that the image was rehabilitated by one of the Fast and Furiouses because the one of the badasses was there.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. That's the stereotype
one.
I was
Oh,
going
yeah,
with.
Okay, good.
Han
Not to
was
mention-
what was his
Not
name?
to mention the Subaru in Cannonball Run written by Jackie Chan. Had a rocket in the back.
Yeah, the Tokyo Drift guy.
Oh, well, that's yeah. That's
What a
me.
guy.
See,
Han.
that's
I was
how
right. His name was Han Lu.
Han.
Yeah.
That's right. Han is very famous. I often get mistaken for it.
I know that happens. Oh, righty. What else did we
Group
have?
texting Mary Catherine.
Oh,
It's
yes.
time to talk about it.
Oh, can I briefly say, just so people have it on their radar,
Yeah.
that the birthright citizenship
right, it's
argument
happening.
is being heard at the Supreme Court this week. We will update on that. We haven't heard anything from that, but I just wanted people to know it's
Good.
on the old radar. Okay.
That's right. There was an interesting story in the Wall Street Journal by Julie Jargon, who I followed for some time. She's story about industry news, but like restaurant and booze industry stuff that I love, food industry stuff. I followed her stuff. Now she's writing these other things in tech. And I'll just read you the headline and subhead to her story.
Okay.
It is in the Wall Street Journal. 6 friends tried to plan a girls' trip in a group chat. Things went sideways. From Dubai to Destin, the meandering text thread bore more futility than fruit, and that was before some split off to a side chat.
Dun, dun, dun.
So the story is about these, some of them were turning 50, all various professions, all, you know,
They're busy.
They're very busy.
Yeah.
They come across as very alpha, you know, they're doing
Yes.
things, right? They're doing things, very important people, women. And they're like, where are we going to go? And the original suggestion was Cartagena, Colombia, which people go there.
Right.
It is not Cartagena.
The
of
idea was
Medellin
that-
cartel Cartagena days.
The pitch was it's exotic, not super hard to get to, and not super expensive.
Right.
Right.
And some people had some concerns about the
Yeah.
safety and still traveling there and whatnot. So then other suggestions started coming out. And people like, what about here? What about there? And then if I can just jump into, they copy, fake screenshot,
Right.
the group text exchange among the ladies.
Okay, can I say before
Please.
that,
Yes.
if you're in a group chat, there is definitely a side chat. And if you're not in the side chat's about you. So just
That's your version of if you can't spot the sucker
Yeah.
in the room after how much,
just
then
FYI.
the sucker's
No,
you.
I think I have overall pretty healthy
The mark.
female group chats. I have two or three of them that I'm in, most of which are fairly healthy. But I could think that because I'm the one who's the problem. You know, they could be elsewhere.
You mean
Like,
do you think
ugh,
people are
so
side
much.
chatting you?
I doubt it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to assume that they're not. I'm
Yeah.
sure I can be annoying at times.
So
Usually I'm the peacemaker, though. Not the peacemaker, but I'm the one who's so laid back that, like, when the plan changes, I'm like, sure. What else? Yeah, just tell me where to go.
you
Is it Cartagena or is it Tulum? I'll just, whatever. I'll be
Tulum,
good.
right? Tulum was mentioned. Okay.
Okay, go
So this is one of the exchanges where the one girl says about Courtney, who was like, let's do something crazy. And then she's like, well, actually, how about Nashville, right?
Right.
So the one woman says, I personally think it's funny because Court was one of the most vocal about doing something adventurous for the 50th. Now you want to stay home? And Courtney replies, I don't want to stay home. Just sounds like everyone wants to stay in this country. Nashville is a top destination, which, by the way, it is, and I love Nashville. Elise says, Nashville doesn't check any boxes for me, so let's stick with Mexico and come up with a fun plan there. Rachel says, I agree with Elise. Right there, you're already, if you're the one having suggested it, now you feel heard.
Yeah.
You feel hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot. This is a barbed wire situation.
Right.
It's just, there's any number of things can go wrong. I have tried to plan one of these with my group chat of gals who are in far-flung. Several of us on the East Coast. Yeah. One in Nashville, one on the West Coast, one in Colorado. And like it does become very difficult because you have to we have like 18 kids between us.
Yeah.
And then you have to pick a destination that is not too expensive, not too hard to get to, doesn't suck up all your away time with travel.
And finding the actual date that works for everybody.
Oh my gosh. We've agreed to like 4 different dates over the last 3 years, and we have not made any of them.
I'm in a group text with my high school buddies, and we try to do one every year.
Right.
And we haven't settled on one yet for this year, and then we're pushing it into the late summer or the fall. Everyone has families now. It's not like when it was so much easier when everybody was in their 20s. Of course. Sure, let's do it. And
I think that, by the way, can I just suggest a hack? If you are in your 20s or 30s, and you maybe are pre-kids, put a weekend on the calendar, make it every year.
That's the weekend.
And set it in stone now. Yeah. Then you can argue that it should be grandfathered once you have children.
I locked in. This is always the weekend.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to jump to the second set of conversations in the screenshot here. Ready? This is how crazy it got. We can be in St. Bart's for $5,000 for $5K. Says, and then Elise says, or Omni says, what about Palm Springs? And then Courtney says, did you guys look at flights to St. Martin? And finally, Anthea replies, I'm out. That's it. I'm done. They ended up talking about 13 different places, including Dubai, Palm Springs, Aspen, Jackson Hole. Mary Katharine, what would you have done?
Okay, I want to take issue with this part.
Okay. There was a line that I didn't mention that triggered you.
There's a reason that MK would be out right here. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Just after Valentine's Day, Anthea threw out what she thought was a more sensible choice. 30A, a long stretch of scenic highway between Panama City and Destin, Florida, known for its beaches. Anthea described the area as the Hamptons of the South. It proved almost as divisive as Dubai. A couple of the girls were like, I'm not going to the Panhandle for my 50th. They were kind of snotty about it, Aaron recalls, and Thea gave up. Okay.
She's about to flip over her tray with the laptop.
First of all, the Panhandle and Gulf of Mexico, Alabama, Mississippi, everywhere. The Gulf of America. The beaches are stunning. Yeah. White sand. Blue water, calm, warm, amazing.
It's where the Truman Show is filmed.
Yeah. Gulf Shores, Alabama. Go down there. You're going to be like, I'm in Alabama? Yes, you are. Go there. Anyway, 30A is like the bougiest bougie.
Right. It's right up their alley. They don't realize it.
They don't know it. They don't know it because they hear Panama City and Destin, and they're like, that's not for us.
That redneck Riviera.
Girls, it would be for you, but now you don't deserve to go there. Okay? It is so idyllic and so beautiful.
Don't need them.
Yeah, you know what? 30A doesn't want you. And she's right. They were snotty about it. And they should stop being so snotty. What would I do? I would say, again, I'm the go-along friend, especially on an adventure like this. I'm like, whatever y'all decide, I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
Watch, there's going to be a side chat about it. Did you hear Mary Katharine say she's like, well, I'll go along with whatever. She's so laid back.
But it's okay because you'll never know. You'll never know, Mary.
Remember when she objected to this and that? I do prefer a lower cost adventure just because you never know what everybody's situation is.
That's very true. It's very true.
I like a place where if you can get, cheap nights in an Airbnb, or you can get something that's not an expensive or complicated flight. That's part of it. Yeah. And I think for my group of friends, Nashville probably would be a very good destination because it's an easy flight for everyone. Yeah.
My father would complain about these golf trips he would do with his other doctor buddies at the time. Right. And they'd go to places like, Miami or whatever. Oh, we're going to play at the Doral or wherever, or Myrtle Beach, wherever. And then he'd complain because they went to the original Joe's Stone Crab. Okay. Boy, did my father not like that. He said they ordered so much wine. And my father doesn't drink that much.
Oh, see, that is a problem.
In the end, and then what are you doing? You're going to split it, 6 ways? And it's like, hold on one second.
There's a famous Friends episode about this where several members of the Friends group are not so well off and they have trouble telling their other friends
bringing in the oysters and the lobster or whatever. And that's the thing about like what, but you know, Jack Germond, the late Jack Germond used to say, just one person, and this is what my high school buddies and I do, which was whenever we would go out, one person per meal. You pick up that meal, and then
that's smart.
And wait for the next person. And if it happens to go around, and that includes bars and stuff. Then if it comes around to you again, fine. Then by then you're having a great time anyway. But it becomes a point where if somebody feels that they're paying more than the next person, that person will up their game at the next place in order to punish the other person for you thought
Hey, you know what?
thought you got away with lunch.
Everyone wins.
Everyone wins in the most disastrous way.
Can I say?
Give me the Louis dress.
I'm going to say something problematic.
Yeah.
I think this might be a little bit of a woman problem.
Oh yeah.
In a dude group, they'd just be like, "Yeah, Panama City. Like, what are we? Why are we even? Why are we even discussing 18 options?" Now, this might change with younger men. I know younger men can be like our generations that I'm not familiar with might be a little more fussy about like their Ibiza or something. Like they need to go somewhere fancy.
I appreciate the pronunciation.
But in my circles, the dudes would be like, I don't know, let's just go to like Gatlinburg. We don't care. That was Vegas. Let's meet in Vegas.
Vegas. That was my my college buddies, and it got to the point. Even for me, I was the one who had more concerns about what are we doing because of the food. I want to go somewhere nice. We went to New. Finally, I drew the line. I said, from this moment on, in my life, I'm going to be in charge of where we're eating.
Okay.
Because we had gone to New Orleans.
See, but that's what you need. You need a leader.
And I don't care about anything else. Oh, we're going to go on the riverboat, go on a cruise. Great, count me in. Casino, count me in. But we were in New Orleans. And some of my college buddies could not care less. Like, where do you want to go? Let's just go to Taco Bell, man. And I'm like, in New Orleans?
No. That would be, I would object
right,
to
draw
that.
the line. But that's it. Otherwise, I'm easy.
I think you need a leader in the group.
Yeah.
I'm not naturally a planner, so I'm not going to be the leader, but I'm going to be an assist to the leader because I'm like, if you're going to lead, I'm probably going to be like, sounds fine to me. I think my weakness is probably being not indecisive because I'm torn between too many things. Indecisive because I'd be like, I'm just good with whatever people want to do.
And then if they're split, then your vote doesn't.
But yeah,
matter.
this split off into a side group chat, and I don't know who initiated the 3-person text chain, but that's when things got bad. Yeah. Elise says this whole thing just like everyone's been there.
Yeah,
everyone in modern life has been
found
there.
Out about it.
I know. Anthea got wind of it and she was hurt. When Anthea said she was out, she meant she was done with planning the trip. She said she had wanted to go to Cartagena all along. Now she felt left out. So she goes to Omri, the peacemaker of the group, and she says, what's the deal, man? This is now, you know when things are serious when you get on the phone.
A phone? Like voice? Oh, that's emergency.
Yeah. It is tricky. We all deal with this because, you know, it's
I think
text.
Last we heard, they're probably going to go to Cartagena. She leaves us, Julie Jarkin leaves us kind of hanging.
Godspeed, ladies.
Yeah.
I hope you make it wherever you make it. Someday, my friends and I will as well, when all of our 18 children are 18 or over.
Yes, and you'll finally. I talked about this with Kate, just looking forward to. I don't know if she's looking forward to it, but I'm looking forward to it just going away. I did catch her reading a cruise brochure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but a good one. Not a bad one. I have a quick call
I'm
out.
going to be reading the Disney cruise.
Yeah,
brochure.
no, I like that, but you know, as adults, kind of weird when you're not with kids. Call out.
Okay.
Listener Ann Continetti, who says
nice.
The church I was at in St. Louis, which was Our Lady of Lourdes, is just down the street from the infamous ZBT Zeta Beta Tau frat house that was the basis for the Delta House in Animal House.
Oh, see, now those guys would have no trouble picking a group trip.
No, that's right.
They'd go see Fawn Leibowitz, and that's the end of it.
The smelting accident.
That's a kiln accident.
A kiln, sorry, smelting.
A kiln.
It was a kiln. It was a kiln.
Kiln explosion. How dare you?
But that other girl, she was really cute.
Yeah.
It was only recently torn down. But as it turns out, Harold Ramis went to Washington University. So he said that was the notorious
that was it.
One. And considering at this wedding, I did a tequila shot out of a bowling ball, I'd say that tracks. That wraps up this episode.
Well done, Alex. Colin, what
is a Colin Anderson family tradition. He said, I didn't realize it until I said, I'll do it. That wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter at Victorino Mattis.
I'm at MK Hammer on X, MK Hammer Time on Instagram. You can follow the show at Getting Hammered Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Thanks for getting hammered responsibly. It's been a Nebulous Media Podcast. Boom!